There are so many things that you want to watch out for. Your specific business, the government is more than happy to take all of that money that you earned away just because you did
That's
something
right.
wrong.
Even if it was unintentional, if the mistake was made, the penalties are still coming. For the different businesses that we represent, sometimes there are legal disputes that end up escalating and we're in court. And if you go to court and you're litigating a case for years and years, it gets really expensive. So when we say there are legal mistakes that cost businesses millions of dollars, we're actually speaking from personal experience. So Josh, look, in the realm of what we do in business law, intellectual property, what do business owners need to keep in mind when it comes to all the millions of dollars that they don't want to lose with legal mistakes?
Yeah, well, you've spent all that time making that business and getting the millions of dollars. The last thing that you want to do is give it to somebody else for no reason, right? So there are a lot of different areas that, depending on what your business is and what you're actually doing, you need to make sure that you are compliant with those. Depending on what your business actually does, there are tons of different laws that might apply and government regulations that might determine what you are allowed to do and what you can't do, and fines that are associated with that.
Business law and the different types of businesses that we represent means we are in different industries. So, can you think of an example where there might be a difference between the different industry compliance rules, regulations that we have to kind of play in between?
Yes, there are so many. One of the ones that comes to mind first, and we just did a video on NFTs a while back, the
Mm.
SEC regulates so many different aspects of investments and NFTs, like we just said, that really myriad businesses fall under their regulations.
And also, we've been recently just discussing about this BOI report. So, if you're a business owner of any type, an LLC, corporation, you have to, as of right now, you have to file this report with the federal government. So, in just kind of complying, or in some cases, the federal government will directly come and sanction you. And in this case, with this report, if you don't file it, it's $500 a day or up to $500 a day. You might even get jail time. These rules and regulations can be really severe, like Josh is saying, with Securities and Exchange Commission, FinCEN, right, which is the entity for the BOI report, and it can, in fact, cost millions.
It easily can cost millions. Depending on what you're doing, if you have personal, private information, you might have to be HIPAA compliant, for example. If there are environmental regulations, those can stack up very easily. There are so many things that you want to watch out for your specific business to make sure that everything that you're doing complies with the government regulations.
And also as your business scales. So if you're watching this right now and you're already at six figures, you're moving into seven figures, the formalities, the policies, this is where things become that much more important. That's what I would say. It's not just about having the contract templates for, your team, your merchants and things like that, but now it becomes about how are you complying with these other rules and regulations as you continue to grow.
Remember, the government is more than happy to take all of that money that you earned away just because you did
That's
something
right.
wrong.
If you're needing legal help, feel free to reach out to Delgado Entertainment Law, which is my firm. We offer free case evaluations with our case managers. So just meaning you don't have to make any kind of commitment. We'll just see how we can help you. Feel free to call us. You can text, you can email. We look forward to hearing from you.
Another area where you might lose millions of dollars, literally, is if you are not properly forming your entities and paying the taxes that you're required to pay for those entities.
It's funny, I was speaking with one of our clients today, and just, something as simple as a trade name, for example, but in even more serious, if you're going to say that you're an LLC or a corporation, quite literally having the proper formation, right? But then what are you doing to comply with just annual filings to make sure your entity doesn't get administratively dissolved because you forgot to pay your taxes?
Yeah, the IRS is happy to add on fines and fees. They're going to come after you, and they are persistent.
There's nothing scarier than getting a letter from the IRS, business owner or individual, but these things happen. And when they happen, sometimes is the costs associated with now hiring either your lawyer or your CPA to go and combat the IRS over these issues because sometimes the mistake, even if it was unintentional, if the mistake was made, the penalties are still coming.
An important thing to keep in mind, all of these mistakes that we've talked about so far, be it taxes or other government regulations, these are entirely avoidable if you're just thinking ahead and being proactive.
Especially for our bigger, businesses that we represent, we intentionally provide services where we are actively kind of being professional pokers. That's what I would like to call it, where it's, what? You as a business owner, you're focusing on running the business, on building, on sales. And so having a team whoever it is to kind of help you to be like, hey, you may not be aware of this. We need to do this. Can be a lifesaver.
So this next one is so easy that it's almost something that people forget to do. You need to keep track of all of your contracts, all of your records, all of your business information, because no one else is going to do it for you.
For one of our businesses doing something around 100 million a year, even for big businesses, they make this mistake. It's so tough because when a problem pops up and it might be with a staff member, and now we have an issue we're trying to work through, and it might be something as simple as they filed a lawsuit in a state they should not have filed a lawsuit in, and we go back to the contract because there should have been jurisdiction that was defined, and now we can't find that contract. So again, just a disaster ensues. Now that all this money is spent trying to get a case moved to the correct state and trying to prove because this contract is missing, right? What was agreed to. So such a good point, Josh.
What we see sometimes is people will say the contract is signed, great, we're done. But unless you can actually take that contract to court to enforce it, you don't have anything.
Yeah, and so for some of the businesses where our clients are just moving so fast, right? They're business people, and I get it. So, what we do is we actively are like, let us do the file keeping for you. Let us stay organized. Let's make sure these contracts get signed because, one of the other big mistakes that are made is that contracts will be put together, they get sent out for execution, and then they're never signed. And so the person who is responsible for making sure that contract gets signed, super, super important. But when it does get signed, making sure that it is safe, it is backed up, and that there's organization.
Yes, talking again about how avoidable these are, how easy is it for you to take a contract that's signed, file it away somewhere so that you have it for later?
I know. Well, and sometimes, easier said than done, but that's part of just building up robust systems and just having a team that can support you. Like, hey, especially with legal services, having someone who's going to help you stay organized can just, again, save you from an unnecessary headache.
So we just mentioned contracts and record keeping. You're also going to want to make sure that in addition to keeping all of the contracts for your employees and independent contractors, that you're actually classifying the right way and engaging them appropriately.
As a firm that services companies all around the United States, there are different laws in different states, and California is a real famous one for just being like, it is rough for employers in the state of California to be an employer. And if you misclassify, the repercussions and the exposure can tank your business. Just for something as simple as you made a small mistake and you accidentally classified someone as a contractor when they actually were an employee under the law.
Yeah, as business owners, we tend to think about employees or contractors as assets, things that help our company, things that bring in value. But if they're not classified appropriately, they can quickly turn into a liability that could cost your company millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, and even in California, as the example, there's PEGA lawsuits that can be brought. And so, for example, even if you have agreements where literally the contract says that you are a contractor, you're working part-time, this and this and this. If you have a misstep and you fail to pay their expenses, you fail to reimburse their gas, right? These small things. And now there's a claim that's not only for misclassification, but it becomes a PEGA lawsuit. So it's kind of like a class action. And so it balloons into, again, just this huge thing. It's not just California. I use that just as the example. Such an important and good point that you're making, Josh.
Again, avoidable problems as long as you're making sure that you're doing it right to begin with. Now, this last one I don't understand at all, but that could just be because I'm an attorney and I always am pushing to go and enforce your rights. Why would you wait to enforce your rights when you can do it today?
Well, give us an example. How does someone fail to enforce their rights as quickly as they need to?
Yeah, so some people might not be aware that there's actually a statute of limitations on copyright claims and how you're allowed to bring them. It's 3 years.
Well, and that's such a good point. Statute of limitations applies to every single potential claim that you may have, right? And it's kind of, sometimes it becomes a game. It's not just the claims you have, it's potentially the claims someone has even against you and your business. And so looking at how long under the law until someone is prohibited from being able to sue you over something, it's a really important analysis. I guess, can we point to an example where this was, kind of devastating for a business because they weren't paying attention to this?
So, for example, a common provision in a lot of employment contracts is a non-solicitation agreement, basically saying once you leave the company, you're not allowed to poach clients, customers, solicit from them, that kind of thing. If you don't enforce those rights when they're soliciting, one, you're allowing them the opportunity to take your clients, and then two, you're giving away your rights. You're making it more difficult for you to potentially claw back those customers.
Yeah, and such a good point too, especially when the bad thing, the bad act is happening in real time. Because even under trademark law, if you don't enforce to protect your trademark, that's not good when it comes time to renew. The trademark office wants to actively see that you have taken measures to protect your exclusive trademark. So this is a huge deal again, and why having someone actively monitoring your intellectual property, reviewing your contracts, right? Having deadlines and things calendared becomes really important as you continue to balloon and scale and you get busy because you're not paying attention to these things and you're focusing on, well, making money.
One other important thing to consider is it's great to look up these statutes of limitations while you're thinking about them, but you might want to seek out legal counsel as well because there are other doctrines, like, for example, the doctrine of laches, where you would actually need to go through case law to figure out how long does it take for you to bring these claims, how long are they still viable? And that's something that if you're not familiar with the legal resources you would need to use to find that information, you might just miss out on that.
And where can a business owner get some legal assistance?
Well, Crystal, we do that for people every single day.
That's right. And in fact, we offer free case evaluations, right? So non-committal, if you need assistance and you're not really sure how you want to proceed forward or maybe what the best solution is. Because here's the thing, it becomes about having a really smart team on your side to figure out what makes sense. Running to a lawsuit, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Give us a call. We'll give you that free case evaluation. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.